People believe in him because he believes in himself. You want other people to believe in you, believe in yourself first, and that will start to happen.
If you can start taking small, consistent actions, I can guarantee that you will build belief. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, Next Level You Meetup Monday. For week number 49, we are going to talk about the 3 beliefs that you must have in order to achieve your dreams.
Oh, yeah?
So I'm going to let Alan start this because why not?
All right, so the pre-frame to this, first of all, thank you for coming. And like we said while the music was playing, is basically we are here to sell one thing and one thing only, and that's belief. At the end of the day, I can tell you with a high degree of certainty that the person in this room who has the most self-belief is going to succeed at the highest level. And the person who has the least is most likely not going to, regardless of talent and circumstance. And so all behavior is belief-driven. There's a great quote by James Allen that basically talks about how circumstances do not make a man or a woman, but reveals him or her. So our circumstances are actually symptoms of an underlying thing based on belief, core values, or core aspirations. But today we're going to talk about belief. So there's 3 beliefs that you must have to achieve your dreams. If you're a client of mine, you know this. The first one is you must believe that it is possible. The great story that I tell about this is that cars were imagined when there were only horses. You know, airplanes were imagined when there were only cars. And spaceships were imagined when there was only airplanes. What are you imagining now that might one day be real? Everyone right now, I want you to think of a product or service or a movie or a book that has changed your life. For me, I'm thinking of Good Will Hunting. You've probably heard me say that before. Now, if Ben Affleck and Matt Damon did not believe that that was possible, that would never have touched my life. Okay? So the first belief is that it's possible. The second belief, this is one that I think most people struggle with, which is it possible for me? I was on the phone with a couple clients this past week, and they were talking about their heroes. And one of their heroes was Brené Brown. The other one was Brendon Burchard. And I basically said, okay, how much do you guys want to be your own unique flavor of Brené Brown or Brendon Burchard? And they said 10 out of 10. That's how bad I want it. Okay. How much do you believe it's possible? Boom, 10 out of 10. How much do you believe it's possible for you? Both of them had hesitation. Okay? So you not only have to believe it's possible, but you have to believe that it's possible for you. And if there's anything that you believe Kevin and I can achieve, and you don't also believe that for you, I would question why that is. You know, now I don't believe that I can beat LeBron James at basketball, but I do believe that I can be a significantly impactful podcaster. Okay, and if I didn't believe that, I wouldn't be here today. Third belief, assuming you have the first 2, is it will be worth it. Because if you believe it's possible and you believe it's possible for you, there's still that third one that's tough. Is it going to be worth all the time, energy, effort, and money? Jim Rohn says, if I had known what it would require of me in those early days to become a millionaire, I don't know if I would have paid the price. The price he's referring to is being away from friends and family. Maybe going outside of his core values, okay? So, is it possible? Yes or no? 0 to 10. Is it possible for you? 0 to 10. Is it going to be worth it? 0 to 10. If you don't have a 10 out of 10 in all 3 of those, that is the root cause of most of your challenges. Because again, circumstances are not going to make or break you. It's decisions that are, and making a decision today to believe in yourself more, you're going to be better off.
Fire.
Thank you, brother.
Fire. It's also, I think it's super important to understand, and we're going to talk, so we've talked about the Drive to 5 before. I'm sure you guys have heard us talk about that. But one of the things is the self-awareness of understanding where you actually are. So if you can think of this right now before we go through these, where do you think you are on a scale of 1 to 10 in self-belief? Like how, so for Alan, anything is possible for Alan. Like he genuinely believes that anything is possible. Obviously, within reason, you're not going to beat LeBron, but who knows? You know what I mean? Maybe you'll get lucky. He'll break his ankle. So for me, I was always on the opposite end. It was like, you know, there's a 0% chance I'm going to succeed at life. That is also false, but that was my belief. That was the level that I was playing at. So I think it's important to figure out where you are before we actually go through this, because I think things are going to land with you differently. If you don't have any belief and you feel like you're very, very low when it comes to that and not a lot is possible for you, this is going to be a completely different presentation than somebody who thinks they can succeed at a very, very high level. So just know that. I think the self-awareness is super, super important. So no matter where we go, no matter where we travel around the world, we always go home. And it's like that when it comes to belief too. And I have studied a lot of emotionally driven people, and I've studied a lot of people, a lot of people who are strategic and more long-term thinkers. And the thing that I have seen is people always go home. What does that mean? For me, you guys might think I'm the most confident person in the world. You see me here every week. You hear me on the podcast. You see me on my Instagram, whatever. But I always go home. My natural home is insecure. Now, I'm not saying it's always going to be that way, but I do think it's important to understand that even when you start to get the results that you've longed for, even when you start to get to a place that you never believed you could get, you always tend to go home, especially when you get overwhelmed. I think Alan's home is more ego, and we've experienced this, right? This is something that we've been running over the last 3.5 years, really focused on studying people to see if this is true. I might have the best day ever. I might have the best week. I might have the best month. But if I get overwhelmed or Alan says something and it has me questioning certainty of us or a podcast or a business, I tend to get insecure. I go home. Where when Alan's doing really well, he might get arrogant and say, well, there's nothing that can touch me now. Now, that's nothing against Alan. It's nothing against myself. But it's important to understand that I think that's normal. I think one of the reasons people get down on themselves is because they achieve more than they ever believed they could, and nothing really changes internally. If anything, it actually gets a little bit harder because you're playing a higher risk game, okay? Now, that's beautiful, and you can level up to that, but I do think it's super important to understand that. I think it's super important to know where you are and know where you can expect to go. And this is something we've seen on the team, we've seen with clients, right? So just know that about yourself. If you're somebody who's insecure, you're probably going to feel that way just at a different level. If you're somebody who struggles with ego, you're probably going to feel that just at a different level. We're not aiming for perfection. We're aiming for progress. How close to 5 can we get? Confident but humble, right? We know that we don't know it all, but we are confident that we know something. I think understanding that is very, very, very important.
So on this one, it's going to be a little bit of a different framework. So I'm going to ask Kev some questions and live. So Kev, you've talked often about early in your baseball career, you were an all-star every time. I remember I went to high school with Kevin, for those of you who don't know, and he was, kind of a star athlete, honestly. And that was something that I envied at the time because I was the smart kid who wasn't very good at athletics. And even that was a story I was telling myself. But anyways, you always talk about how you feel like you got lucky. Mm. And one of the things that I want to help illuminate here for everyone who attended and everyone listening is if you didn't reverse engineer the result, it won't necessarily build confidence because you might feel like you got lucky. So I decided to get the President's Award in high school, which means getting straight A's. And then I did it. So I proved to myself that I was capable. Whereas Kevin just showed up and did awesome when he didn't necessarily reverse engineer, I want to be a great baseball player. So can you give your frame on your new perspective on that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't want to play. My mom made me play. I was actually better at soccer than I was at baseball, and I didn't. Back then, soccer wasn't cool, and I wanted to be a baseball player. But I remember that I was always one of the best on my team, but I always felt like if I got a hit or if I hit a home run or if I made a really good play, I got lucky. I genuinely... I thought that was the way it was. I didn't decide to get better. I didn't know that I was capable of getting better. And this is the thing. That perpetuates for the rest of your life. So if you guys have seen this on my story, every day when I wake up, I write down, I am certain something amazing will happen to me today. Right? Jen started writing that down the other day. Imagine if you wrote the opposite. Imagine if you wrote, today I am certain that something terrible is going to happen to me today. You are more likely than not going to find something terrible. I found that throughout my life when it came to getting lucky. So what a lot of people don't know is when I got my 6-figure job, that was luck. I literally went and took a class for people who are unemployed because I was a good speaker and a kind person. I got paired up with the best company there, and I literally made $50 an hour on the first job that I ever worked with them. That was pure luck. I wasn't better at working than anybody else. I had never done it before. So that just perpetuates you're lucky. And that's something that you can't really double down on. So what Alan is saying is, if you decide in this moment that you're going to do something small, it doesn't have to be massive. It doesn't have to be massive. You're going to do something small. What I tell people, make eye contact with somebody at the grocery store. When you're walking down the aisle, we all have that awkward moment where you can either look at them or you can look down or pretend you're looking at your phone. That actually builds belief. Like if we ever meet, just look me in the eye, and that will build belief. And it seems like something super simple, but we're conditioned. We're genuinely conditioned to do the things we do to avoid discomfort. Alan's going to talk about conditioning. What are you smiling about over there?
I was trying to look you in the eye.
Oh. Yeah.
So, like, what Kevin's saying here is looking at the right evidence. There's so many stories that I can talk about on this one, but I'll tell you an intimate story, not an intimate story, but a very close, near and dear story early on in my journey. So this is probably a year or so after my car accident. This is actually before Kevin and I started the podcast together. And I was sitting down with a close friend at Pins in Milford, Massachusetts. It's a bowling alley. And I was with a close friend. And I remember asking him about his future. And I was really big into personal development, probably in an obnoxious amount of a way, because I was just like, oh my God, this is the solution. Let me give this to everybody, right? And I didn't necessarily do it in a sustainable, like, tactful way. But anyways, I was asking him about his future. And this person was really down and out and felt stuck. They were working at what they referred to as a dead-end job. They were a cook at a small restaurant. And they were talking about how they really wanted to work for National Grid, and they really had all these goals and ambitions that they wanted to do, but I could tell they felt defeated and struggling. And I wanted to inject hope. I wanted to inject belief. And I asked him a simple question. It's a weird question, but I like to ask people weird questions because I want to see their responses, and I like to study humans. I said, do you believe it's possible for you to be a millionaire? And he sat with that for a second. He's like, no. And I was like, okay, do you believe it's possible for me to be a millionaire? And he said, yeah. And I said, okay, why is it possible for me and not for you? He said, well, you went to WPI. You have a degree in electrical and computer engineering. You have a master's, like you know. And I'm like, okay, appreciate you. Take away all my degrees. Okay, I don't have a master's anymore. I don't have a bachelor's. Take away my degrees. Do you believe I can still be a millionaire? Yeah. And again, this is the first time he had contemplated this kind of thing. And I'm like, okay, well then obviously it's not the degrees, right? So take away my degrees, you still believe in me. Why can't you be? If I can do it without any degrees, why can't you? And there was this moment where he just went like, does not compute. And he sat there with his truth and was like, oh, I just never really thought about it, and I believe in him, but I don't believe in myself. And the reason why I did that, and by the way, that's what we call a mirror moment. Don't force those on people. This person was not comfortable with that conversation, okay? I have become way more respectful and tactful with mirrors now. Like, people come to Next Level University to get better. You guys are here for the mirror. Don't force it on people. That was a giant mistake. You can't help people unless they want to help themselves. And even that's probably a limiting belief to some extent. But here's my point. If you believe that I'm capable of being a millionaire and you don't believe that you are, I would ask yourself, why is that? I'm not even saying you have to want to be. I'm not even saying you have to be. I can tell you from experience, I have several friends, colleagues, mentors, multimillionaires. It's not as difficult as you think it is, okay? It is possible. And my question for you is, if it's possible for them, why isn't it possible for you? Is it because you don't have a degree? Is it because you're not, quote unquote, ambitious? Is it because you're not good at math or whatever? You guys have heard me tell the story about how I was told that I'm not good at English and that I'm really good at math. My mother went to a parent-teacher conference with Mr. Balunas. Kevin remembers him.
He was jacked.
Yeah.
He was jacked.
It really was. Football coach. It was 8th grade, and he said, what are you doing here? Basically, like, you don't have to come here. Like, your son's amazing at math. Naturally, I avoided English. My only B+ in high school was honors English. Never took honors again. And I just went down the math road. Electrical and computer engineering. The thing is we get conditioned. So we have to look at the right evidence. Remember, it's chicken or egg. If you don't believe in yourself, you probably have less evidence to look at. So what evidence are you looking at? So when I ask you the question, why can't you be a millionaire? I want you to really think about reasons why that is. You're going to come up with every reason why you can't. See, that's a crappy question. Now ask yourself the reverse. How could I be a millionaire? See, one of them opens doors. It opens possibilities. I can tell you for certain every single one of you could. Whether or not you will is an entirely different story, but you could. And that's what we're talking about here today is self-belief. You got to uncover why you don't believe in yourself and realize that it's such crap.
Get fired up. One of the things is the importance of understanding that it's not all going to happen at once. If I met any of you and said, hey, can you do a podcast that has almost 600 episodes? You might say no. But what if I said, can you do one podcast today? You still might say no because you don't feel like you're a great speaker. But isn't that way less intimidating? Isn't that way more possible? I think we look at the final product and we don't look at the steps along the way. And if you do that, you're going to live with paralysis by analysis because you're never going to start. I think that a lot of people who don't believe in themselves, they don't believe that they can accomplish that giant task. And honestly, they're right at that given time. Mm-hmm. I was not capable of doing everything we're doing today 3 years ago. I wasn't. I also never planned on making it to 500 episodes. So the fact that we're here is amazing. But if I tried to take all that in at once, how do you eat pizza? One slice at a time. How do you walk up the stairs? One step at a time. Unless you have long legs and you can skip steps, that is not something I can do, right? It's one at a time. But if you thought about how much work it was going to take, you might never start. If you thought about how long it would take, you might never start. And if you don't start, you're actually losing belief in yourself because you're proving to yourself that you're not worthy of doing it, that it's not possible for you, right? And then you have to come up with excuses why you didn't start. And then that cycle continues. I think that we actually have some clients in the room right now. When I work with podcasters, I just show them how to start. That's it. I show them how to start. This is how we do episode 1. This is your trailer episode. This is your intro. This is your outro. This is how we upload it. Boom. That's it. Just one at a time. One at a time. Do they want to get to 500 episodes? Sure. If they do, they'll get there eventually. But everything starts with one. So before you convince yourself that you're not capable, just take a small action. And again, Amy did this when she reached out to us. Right? Jenna's starting a podcast. Brandon's starting a podcast. Everybody is taking small actions. And a lot of those actions are actually really big actions. But they all started with a small one. If you can start taking small, consistent actions, I can guarantee that you will build belief. Now, can I connect one?
Please.
Do you mind?
Please.
I think it's very, very important to understand the relationship you have with failure. Okay? We grew up in a society where failure was final. If you got a D in school, that D stayed there. You didn't get an opportunity to go retake the test, or maybe you did. I know I didn't, and do better. Or maybe the teacher didn't sit you down and say, why did you answer this question this way? Like, what were you thinking? What was your thought process? I got a D, and that was the end of it. I took it home, I got in trouble, felt bad about myself. I'm not good at math, right? And I never was. I genuinely wasn't. I may or may not have cheated to get through some of my math classes, but that is here nor there. But that became my story. I failed at this thing, therefore I am a failure when it comes to that thing. Not a lot of people know this. So Colonel Sanders, who created KFC, he didn't get his recipe sold until his 1,004th try. He got rejected 1,003 times. 1,003 times. He was in his 60s when he finally got successful, right? He understood that failure isn't final. So I think that if we change our intention, what are we actually trying to do? Are we trying to win the game right now, or are we trying to get feedback and to grow? Before I had my amazing girlfriend, she's in here, my amazing, beautiful girlfriend, Taryn, I was in a gym one day, and it was a beautiful girl who I had seen at the gym that I found attractive. In my mind, I wanted to approach her and talk to her. That was my only intention. Not to get her number, not to go out on a date. I just wanted to go up to her and tell her I thought she was beautiful. I did that, got rejected, and I actually felt great about myself because I accomplished my goal. failure in that moment wasn't final. And I ended up seeing her a bunch after that, and I wasn't embarrassed. It was just like, look, it is what it is. So I think that if we can change our relationship with failure, I think that right there inherently is going to create more belief in you. Because it's not the end of the road. Alan and I will screw something up today. We already have.
Oh, yeah?
For sure. We recorded episodes earlier. I'll misspeak on here. I already have. But it's not the end of the world. You guys keep coming. You keep showing up. Right? It's not that bad. Maybe you'll laugh about it. It is what it is. But failure isn't final unless you quit. Genuinely. Colonel Sanders, he had 103 times to quit. If he quit on any of those, we wouldn't know who he is. And I wouldn't be able to tell that cool story. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are watching this or listening to this, it's obvious that you want to get to the next level of your life. We can help you get there faster.
In 3 months from today, your life can look completely different. Here's how. Group coaching. Here's what you're going to get. So you're going to get bi-weekly calls with Kevin and myself. You're going to be on a team of 10 like-minded, growth-oriented individuals. You're also going to be in a WhatsApp chat with Kevin and I and the entire team, 24/7 access to chat. Also, you're going to get bi-weekly progress reports and peak performance tracking.
Guys, this is a great opportunity for those who can't afford one-on-one coaching with Alan and myself. We have helped dozens and dozens of people get to the next level at this point. Go to nextleveluniverse.com, click group coaching, or find the link in the show notes.
Talk to you soon. Powerful, man.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, 2 phrases that are really important. One is optimism always wins eventually. Eventually is the key word. Very key. And then the second one is pessimism keeps you safe. Believing something won't work out stops you from trying. And then you get to stay safe. Being pessimistic about what's possible actually stops you from trying hard stuff. And I know that's hardcore, but it's true. Right? If you don't go and try that dream, you don't have to fail. You don't have to face yourself. You don't have to be rejected. You don't have to get on camera and Jeff 560 episodes. Right?
570.
570, sorry.
How dare you?
Well, the last 10 weren't failures. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, but seriously, pessimism keeps you safe, but it also doesn't fulfill you. I'm going to tell you a quick story about Jeff Bezos that I love, and I often talk about how I have reverence for Bezos in 94. Jeff Bezos in 94, for those of you who don't know, started a little company called Amazon.com. Okay, it sold books online. In 1994, he needed some investment. He needed some money. He was on the struggle bus of early entrepreneurship. I've been there at least once. And he needed some capital, some money. So he went to 5 different investors. He was going to give them a percent equity. I think it was something like 5%. Don't quote me on that. For $20,000. And they said, no, what is the internet anyway? That is Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon.com. You better believe that optimism always wins eventually. He could have easily said, oh, okay, they're probably right. They're savvy investors. They know businesses. They know the economy. They know the future. No, they don't. And by the way, they'd have billions of dollars for that 20 grand if they had done that. One of the biggest mistakes they could possibly make. What's the internet? Right? What if you're right? What if your self-belief is right? What if Kevin and I are right? Like, what if your dream really is possible? How often are you contemplating that? I've had some really brutal days on this journey. I got offered a job for $250,000 when I was literally landscaping on the side for $100 for 4 hours in the hot sun with a master's degree in business. But I just never stopped believing. I knew that this would work out eventually because I knew that Kevin and I could do it. And now we're finally starting to see some of that stuff actually come true. But I believed it long before anyone else saw it. I want you to imagine you're waking up at 5 a.m. every single day. And you're traveling, and you're parking, and you get out, and you're watering the dirt. And all your friends and family are looking at you going, what are you doing? That's just dirt. There's nothing under there. I felt like that for so many years. And finally, some of my loved ones are seeing what I've seen the whole time. Okay? There's a Chinese bamboo. You've heard me say this, but it's super important. For 5 years, you have to water and nurture it. Best analogy ever. And for 5 years, it doesn't break the soil. And then within 2 weeks, I believe, it's 200 feet tall. That is your dream. But if you don't water it for those previous 5 years, if Tom Brady wasn't working hard for those previous 5 years before Bledsoe got injured, he would not be the Tom Brady we know him. He would not have the charity he does of Best Buddies. We would not look up to him in his leadership. There's a million examples of that. Every single hero each of you have at one point was down and out, broken, didn't believe in themselves, had alcohol or drug addiction, struggle bus, fired, failed over and over and over again. Every single one of them. There's not a single person that you can show me that doesn't have a decade of failure who's now a hero. The problem is we only see them once they're already successful, once the compound effect already pays off. See, many of you see us on our early part of our journey. The large majority of the world, when they finally find next level you, they won't know what it really took. And we're going to have to tell them, and we've got some good stories to tell. But the thing is at the end of the day, if you don't believe it first, you will never see it. Just like the car when there was only horses, just like the plane when there was only cars, just like the space shuttle. Elon Musk is selling cars that don't exist. People believe in him because he believes in himself. You want other people to believe in you, believe in yourself first, and that will start to happen.
Clip that. That's going to end up on a meme somewhere on the interwebs. On the interwebs.
The Elon part?
Yeah, no, the whole thing. The whole thing. Another thing that I think is super important that I don't think enough people talk about is everybody in this room has more belief around something than I do. Every single one of you. It's something that you're better at than I am. If you're a parent, you have more belief in your parenting than I do. Right? If you're a professional bull rider, you have more belief in riding a bull. I don't know if any professional bull riders are in here. If so, strong work. You are on another level. Yeah, right, okay. But I think that if we look back, like think about the first time you rode a bike. You had probably very little belief. That's why we have training wheels, right? But today, if you don't believe you can do it, you're not going to try, because when you're a kid, you don't care about embarrassment. There is no such thing. I used to run around naked when I was a little kid. Like that's what little kids do. Right? But if you are now in this part of your life, think of it this way. Driving, learning to drive is one of the hardest things ever. I did not believe I could do it. But now it's something I do every single day. I listen to music. I listen to books. Right? I have a stick shift. I'm driving with one hand in my knee. At one point, I didn't believe I could drive. I remember the first time I went with my mom. I took the corner doing like 35, and I didn't understand braking yet. I didn't believe I was going to get my license. But I think it's things like that where you kind of have to get your license. The things that we're forced to do, we find a way to believe in. Right? Alan and I have so much necessity to succeed. There is no other way. So we have to believe in this, even on the days where we don't. And I want to connect this to something. If you're surrounded by people who aren't super excited for life, who have excuses and reasons why they can't succeed, who are always, always, always products of their circumstances, it's going to be way harder for you to believe in yourself. When you come into Next Level Nation, when you come on these masterminds or these meetups, excuse me, how dare I? When you listen to our episodes, we believe in you. We always want to instill belief. That's our job. That's our goal. That's our purpose. That's what we're here for, right? It is not a coincidence that when you come into a group like this, you start getting on Next Level Lives. You start doing things that get you out of your comfort zone. It's not a coincidence. It's because you're in a community of people that want to lift you up. So I think it's important to understand, and again, self-awareness is very big when it comes to belief. Where are the people in your life? Are they helping you with your belief? Or are they the actual people who are telling you you can't succeed? You go home and you spend time with the people that you care about the most, and then you come to us and we tell you how possible it is for you. If that's the only time you're getting it, and obviously, we have the group coaching and all that happy jazz, but it's important to find your own people, find your own tribe, because it's contagious. Mindset is contagious. Behavior is contagious. All that is contagious. And so isn't belief. There's a reason I believe in myself so much. It's because I spend time with Alan. We're coached by Dave Meltzer, right? We have like some people in our corner who believe in us. And I've absorbed that. But if I was spending time with people who didn't believe in themselves, number one, I would have to constantly lift them up, which is okay, but you have to have a certain level of belief in yourself, right? And again, I was told that this podcast thing is not possible. I'll never make a career out of this. Leaving my job was the dumbest thing I could do. I've been told that many times because I tend to just leave my job a little recklessly. But it's super important. It always is. Your environment, the people that you surround yourself with, is always going to be important. But if you lack confidence and you don't believe in yourself, I do believe that it's going to magnify it more than anything.
I don't know if I've ever said this on the show, but I think there's a really important frame here. Your beliefs live in your brain. And we all are born with similar hardware. So for those of you, just to give the analogy some context, this laptop over here has hardware and software, okay? Hardware is the hard drive, the RAM, the screen, all that. The software is Microsoft Word. The software is Windows. So we all are born, right, with fresh hardware. Now, our brain is old. It's 200,000 years old, right, evolution. But the software that's downloaded is different for each of us. If you were born in China, you speak Chinese, not English, because the software that got downloaded is different, because that's what you were around. And so the thing is almost everything you believe is actually made up. And I think it's really important for all of us to understand that. Why make something up that's going to disempower you? I could be wrong, but I'm going to try a lot harder with my belief than someone who doesn't believe in themselves. Like that person that I sat down with, it's like they're going to try less, become less, give less, do less, all because they didn't have the courage to believe in themselves. And I actually understand why. This person, grew up with someone who did the opposite of inject belief, which bothers me to my core. But the other thing I want to say here is that belief can be built. I can tell you from experience that Kevin believed in himself less than probably each and every one of you. When he texted me when he was on the side of the bed in New Jersey, that's a real thing. He wanted to end it. And he believed in himself so little that he thought that was the way. Anything you see him do, there's no reason you can't too. It's just the bullshit story you've told yourself as to why you can't. And if you get around a community of people who believe, your life will absolutely transform. And honestly, I don't know if there's another way, because it's a lot like COVID. It's a virus. Beliefs are viruses. Memes is a term from memetics. Okay, I heard someone say this. This is literally probably 5 or 6 months ago. There's no money in podcasting. 2 days later, Joe Rogan sold his podcast for $100 million to Spotify. You're full of shit. And by the way, have you ever podcasted? Have you ever studied the industry? Do you know anything, really? Okay? I want you guys to be really discerning with who you spend your time with. I want you to get way more picky. We're so afraid to get COVID. Be afraid to get there's no money in podcasting. Be afraid to let that stuff download. Right? And if in this community, we're going to keep injecting hope, we're going to inject belief, because regardless of whether or not you fail or succeed, you're going to be way better off having tried.
You're fired up today.
Yeah, this is a big topic for me.
I was going to say, my Lord, we're about to fight a lion in here. Line them up. Line them up. So, guys, focus on, a couple things. I also want to do a little bit of a practice thing here, but I want you to keep focusing on the things that you're good at. Genuinely. Especially, so what Alan and I will do after this, we'll be on a team call, and we'll say, hey, what do you guys think? Amy will say, 9 out of 10 maybe. Jen might say 2 out of 10. She might be like, not my favorite. And what Alan and I will do is make sure that we take that feedback appropriately. If we're really high and really happy and we're saying, we are the best in the world, we're far more likely to take hard feedback. But if Alan and I just got kicked in the face and we had a really bad podcast interview or speech or whatever it is, we're going to look at the wins. I think that if you lack belief, you probably focus on the losses way more than the wins. Almost exclusively. With my clients, I literally say, tell me your wins. Just tell me your wins. We do it on the team call, right? And sometimes it's hard to come up with wins because we're so focused on what went wrong and not what went right. Imagine if you focused on what went right a little bit more, just one thing a day, right? At the end of the night when you go to sleep, when you're getting ready to go to bed, if you do your journaling at night, write down your wins. Write down what you did really well. Write that down, because if you lack belief, you probably do not lack humility. You're not going to go to the other side. Remember, when I said you tend to go home, it's very hard for somebody who lacks belief to be arrogant. And it doesn't last very long because you always end up going home when crap hits the fan. So this is what I want you to do. Imagine Alan and I are literally in your living room right now, and we're talking just to you. Nobody else is there. And we sat you down and said, what do you really want out of life? What do you really want? No limits. You can have my belief and you can have Alan's belief, and we're going to help you get there. Whatever it is, no matter what it is. What do you want out of your life? What would you write down? Like, have the audacity to write that down. I want to be a billionaire. I want us to help 500 million people at least. The most successful personal development podcast of all time. I want 100 plus Airbnbs. Like, that is audacious. That is going to take a lot of work. I don't ever want anybody in my family ever to have to work again. That's audacity. I have the audacity to say that. But I also believe it's possible. But I didn't always. And some days I still don't. Some days I wake up and it sucks. And I'm like, can we really do this?
Can you take them through what those goals were originally? Because I remember early on it was like low. Yeah.
So when I first believed I could actually make money, I think I set my goal for $7 million. I wish I could make $7 million. Then Alan and I went to UMass Lowell, and we watched Oprah donate $2 on the spot. $2 million. She just said, I'm just going to give it to the school. And in my mind, I was like, I'm not going to have enough money to do that. Like, I don't want that to happen. So I think I set it at like 50 million. And again, my number, it's just a number. This is just showing the evolution of my belief. That's all this is doing. Taryn and I, so I think I set it for 70 million after that. Like, that's a good amount. That's good. Taryn and I were watching a documentary on how chocolate is made. Okay? I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole. It's a whole thing. But let's just say there's a lot of non-good things that go with chocolate. And I realized that if I really wanted to impact people on a financial standpoint, I needed way more money. So my desire to have a net worth of $1 billion isn't for me. It's so I can help more people. The podcast, I never had a goal for how many people we wanted to help until I saw Lewis Howes had 500 million downloads. I think we can do it. There's 2 of us, right? And, Lewis Howes is crushing it, but I think we can beat him. But I didn't always have that. I genuinely didn't always have that. And some days I still don't. And I think that's the important thing. I burn down, guys. I cry. I have days where I don't want to get out of bed and do it. But I think we didn't talk about why power, and we can talk about it quickly. Attach something more than just the result. Like, I always talk about Taryn. I cry when I do it every time. That's one of the reasons I work so hard. I love her more than anything, and I will not fail. I just won't. I don't care what it takes. I will die for this. I've said it. But I attach this to something else. I don't want to let Alan down. I don't want to let the team down. I don't want to let you guys down. Right? There's way more to this than just the result. I have way more invested in it than just the result. So I think we have to attach why power too, because it's... I use the analogy of a burning building. Do you believe that you could go into a burning building and get a $20 bill? Probably not. But if your family was in there, you wouldn't even think about it. It's not belief at that point. It's why power. Right? There's a big difference between the two.
There really is. We got to roll. Strong work.
I appreciate that.
Seriously.
Sweating profusely. Right.
Got Kevin emotional. I love it. And watching that evolution was really cool.
I appreciate it.
Genuinely. So we've got 30 seconds on the clock, and then it's going to be meetup time, which is going to be fire, and hopefully you guys have some awesome stuff here to contemplate. But I want to tell a super, super fast story. So there's an elephant, little baby elephant. Dumbo. We'll call him Dumbo.
I was going to say.
Strong work. And the little baby elephant gets a noose around its neck, and it's at a circus, and it gets a big stake in the ground and a big rope wrapped around its neck, and it tries and it tries and it tries to break free. And it's a little baby elephant, so it can't. It tries, it keeps trying, and eventually it gives up. Now that elephant is, 5 tons, and it's in the middle of the circus tent, and it's still tied to that rope, and now it doesn't even try. Why? Because it's been conditioned. It's been conditioned to believe that it cannot pull the stake out when it could easily. That is every single one of you. That's me, that's Kevin, and every single one of you. There's no downside to believing in yourself more. Self-belief, self-respect, self-integrity, self-love, self-care, self-advocacy, self-efficacy. No one's going to give it to you. We can preach all day, but you have to give it to yourself. So that's what I wanted to end with.
Also, real quick, as of April, when is book club starting? We're starting Next Level Book Club.
The first Saturday in April from 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Boom.
Which I believe is the 3rd.
Making the books, all the good stuff.
Oh, yeah?
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, long pause. We don't have fans. We have family. We love you. Thank you guys as always.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.